This is the 2016 Raleigh Tekoa IE, mid-drive powered hardtail electric bike with 29-inch wheels. I was comparing this a little bit to the iZip E3 Peak. It's also a hardtail. It's made by, I guess, owned by the Excel Group, which also owns Raleigh. And at first I was like, oh, what's the difference? 29er wheels instead of 27.5. This one just has standard skewers, quick release front and rear, whereas the Peak has a 15mm through axle at the front, 12mm at the rear. They both have hydraulic disc brakes, 180mm, great stopping power. Grips are pretty flat. The bar on this one's also pretty flat, and I noticed that this is a demo bike, so it's dirty, it's kind of beat up. I'm not sure if these are the appropriate pedals or not. Couldn't find the key to get the battery pack off, and look at this. It looks like remote lockout on the suspension fork, and there's no wire, there's no cable. I'm not sure if that's stock or not. I looked on the website and I've recorded the information there, but some of the specs there were also a little bit off. Like, it didn't say anything about that remote lockout, and the seat post diameter on this model that I'm looking at here is 27.2, and they said it's 30.9. So be careful if you're thinking about getting this and adding a seat post suspension. You might want to check, call a dealer, just be sure that you get the right diameter, because if you buy 30.9, that's too big and you're not going to be able to stuff it into the seat tube. So keep that in mind. The other difference about the Tekoa IE versus the E3 Peak is that this is supposed to come in another size, one level higher. So I think it's 17, 19-inch, and 21 inches. I'm on the large, which would be the 19-inch frame. I'm about 5'9", and this feels pretty good. It's a little bit larger because the 29-inch wheels do elevate the frame about an inch compared to the 27.5-inch wheels on the E3 Peak. These are going to give you a little bit more stability, a little bit more cushion, going to span cracks a little bit easier, but the wheel protrudes a little bit more too, so if you're pedaling you could clip your toe. 100mm travel on that suspension fork, and it looks like there's plenty of room. Even the frames are different, so this one you can kind of see the welding, and so it's definitely tapered head tube, really nice look. And this comes in kind of a dark silver. I don't know if it's a gunmetal or whatnot, but blue and white accents versus more of a gloss black with blue and white. That bike is a little bit more oriented for potentially being a commuter or weekend warrior sort of thing. It had these nice bosses on the seat stays where you could add a fender, but also a rear rack. Neither one of them have bottle cage bosses, and maybe it's just the geometry. Neither one of them come in step through. They're high step only. It's going to be rigid. It's nice that this could be hung off the back of a car or something, but you're going to have to like lift your leg a little higher. And Shimano Deore XT 10-speed cassette back here. Nice derailleur. Trigger shifters up top. That's another thing that was a little bit confusing. It said SRAM drivetrain on the Raleigh website, and even some of their labels and stuff just seemed like a little bit off. So I'm trying to be really thorough with this, but I'm not, I don't really know what the situation is, and it's just when you're spending $27.99 on an electric bike, you kind of want to know that stuff. In my opinion, that's not super cheap. There are definitely other hardtails that are less expensive, but you do get a 2-year comprehensive warranty on all the different parts, lifetime on the frame. It is an e-bike specific frame. You see some of the wires run through here, and then they've got this mounting point at the bottom designed for this M07 Trans X mid-drive, 350 watt nominal, 400 peak, which you might say, oh, 400, why not 500 or more? Well, it offers 73 newton meters of torque, which is a lot. So the generic Bosch system is like 60 newton meters. They have I think it's the CX version that might be 75. So you're right up there. It's very powerful. It turns a larger sprocket, and that tends to start a little slower and stop a little slower. There's no shift sensing, and it seems to me that it's mostly cadence driven. So you don't have to push super hard. It just kind of kicks in, and I found myself riding in the lower 2 levels of assist, which is going to extend range. And part of that was just it felt more comfortable. It felt a little smoother because you get up into 4 and it's like, and it really gets going. And without brake lever inhibitors, which none of the mid-drives seem to have these days, there are moments where I was pedaling gently just to switch gears, so I wouldn't be mashing. I'm just like moving my cranks a little bit, trigger, and then the motor would start and it was like, and it's like, oh, I didn't really want that. I'm braking. I'm trying to just slow down So there are moments of sort of like getting used to the bike, I guess. But I do like it overall. It handles really well. It's high up. It's a 29er. You get the warranty and everything. So let's talk a little bit about battery. 48 volts, 8.7 amp hours, lithium ion cells. Nice and centered on the frame, low. Good weight distribution. I'm liking that. Again, quick release on the wheels. Removable battery. You can charge it on the bike, which was nice because, again, I couldn't find the key. So just moved it over by a wall. Leaned against the wall just like I'm doing against this tree because there is no kickstand, just like a lot of mountain bikes. But there's also no mounting point for a kickstand. I mean, this is a little sensor for wheel speed, so you'd have to get something off Amazon that just kind of cranks on, or just have none. 13 gauge spokes, so a little bit thicker, black. They look great. I mean, this is a really cool looking bike. Even the motor on this side, it's cool. It all blends in nicely. I think these are tubeless ready rims and tires, same with the E3 Peak. Two-step power on process. So you press power there on the battery pack, then you come up here to the little button pad and you press it on again, and then there's like an 8-second countdown. So a little bit slower than some of the other bikes. It does swivel, which is nice to reduce glare, and it does have a light sensor, so if you're in the dark, it's gonna get bright, and there really isn't a way to turn that off. Not a huge deal, but you know, it's a medium-sized display, and at night, if it's super dark, that's gonna be glowing right in your face. So it'd be nice if in the future they like let you disable it if you wanted. First thing you see is speed in miles per hour. If you want to switch to kilometers per hour, you hold the little box button here for a couple seconds, and it'll switch. Down here we have battery level. I got to 2 bars in like an hour or so. So, you know, the first half, or maybe 60-70% of the battery is going to charge faster because it doesn't have to balance the cells. So I just plugged it in, and oh, in fact, here's the charger right over here. It's nice. It weighs like 1.7 pounds, 2 amp charger. I'd call this just standard, but it fits in little backpacks pretty easily, so you could ride to your friend's house or whatever. If you're mountain biking, there probably isn't going to be like a charging port on top of the mountain, but that's where we're going. We're going to head up there. I'm going to hop on the bike and just have some fun, take it off-road. The motor really, you know, it totally helps, and I do have some sensitive knees, and so it's great to have that assist. This is a Class 1 electric bike. They do have an option. It's a little button pad that you can mount right here. It's called the boost button, and it lets you go 6 miles per hour, sort of slow, almost like a walk mode, which could be nice if you're trying to like carry this, like push it up a hill or something. And then there's 20 mile per hour, like normal button. You have to hold it, so you know your thumb would be right here, but it's pretty easy to reach, just like the button pad over here. It's a nice option. I think that's $50 at the dealer. Okay, so getting back into the display panel, we talked about speed, we got our battery level indicator, our assist level over on the left. You can go all the way up to 4, that's the most assist, it's gonna drain the battery the quickest. And if you arrow all the way down to 1, and you have to push a little harder on this, and maybe it's because it's a demo bike, it's been beat up a little bit. If you want, you can go to 0, which just turns this into a cycle computer. And if you somehow wired some lights in, which I think you can do with this system, but you'd have to pay the shop to try to do it for you if they're willing to. You can hold the power button for a couple seconds and it goes down to 0. And so that means you don't have to worry about the motor kicking in. It's just a normal bicycle. It's just a heavy normal bicycle. This one's about 1 pound lighter than the E3 Peak. I weighed them both. This one's about 48 pounds, and they're both large. They're the same size. So it might be just the combination of having a kickstand on the E3 Peak and maybe the frame material's lighter. I was surprised because these are 29-inch wheels versus 27.5. Not really sure. Maybe it's the narrower seat tube and seat post. Okay, so we've gone through most of the main settings. If we press that box button again, it's going to take us into the odometer and trip distance and range. Range is cool because it dynamically looks at how much battery capacity you have remaining and then what assist level are you in. So I'm in the lowest level of assist right now, and it says 12 miles. Again, we're less than half full, so it's gonna, I'd estimate 15 to 35 miles on this bike. But if we arrow all the way up to 4, well, now it's way down to 6 miles. So that's cool. Just lets you know, like, oh, might want to arrow down to a lower level of assist, or I hope you're at the top of the mountain. You can coast all the way home because you're, you know, running low on battery. So very cool. I think that's about it. Let's hop on and go for a ride. I'm going to start in a lower level, shift up. You might be able to hear the shifting with a bit of mashing, but I'm in the lowest level of assist right now, and look for responsiveness. getting good power. Smooth, quiet. And we're up to 20 miles per hour, so the motor just sort of eases out. And that's in level 1, so that's pretty cool. Get ready for a climb. That was pretty amazing. We're getting pretty high up the mountain and my knees feel fine. This motor is really powerful. Like, the cadence sensing means I don't have to push especially hard for it to activate. Going 10 miles per hour, like constant, straight up. It's awesome. I'm in the lowest gear, going for something really steep. Pedal assist level 4. It's doing pretty well. I'm having to help now. Just seated the whole way. Almost made it. Getting pretty close to the top. Woo! Still a workout, but there's no way I could do that without standing up. Oh, just constant, non-stop, without assist. Made it to the very top. Look at this. That's awesome. Like less than a half hour. Now's the fun part. I'm gonna get to cruise down. Hold on. So those hydraulic disc brakes really come in to be handy. Erosion on the trail. Pretty awesome. Well, there you go. That's the 2016 Raleigh Tekoa IE 29er hardtail. Pretty good bike. Had a lot of fun on it out there. There are some full suspension bikes from High Bike and other companies, but if you're someone who's looking to just keep it simple and maybe have a bit of a weekend warrior, this could work. I do wish that they had some bosses for adding a rack or something, but you can always add a beam rack. And yeah, you know, the motor, just one of the most powerful ones I've seen. Not the most responsive, but it gets the job done. For the full write-up on this and some of the other Raleigh electric bikes, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. And of course, ride safe.